Buying a mirrorless or DSLR camera as a gift is a tricky thing. It can seem like there are endless features, options, and specifications, and prices range from hundreds to thousands of dollars. Plus, you have to consider lenses, memory cards, and other accessories. Don't worry though, we're here to break all that down. The main thing to consider is what your loved one wants to do with a camera. Are they a budding sports shooter, street photographer, or video director? Once you know that and have a budget in mind, you're well on your way. We'll guide you through the strengths and weaknesses of all the best cameras and help you narrow it down to just the right one. First, let me point out that we're talking about cameras that allow you to change lenses and not compact or point-and-shoot models. For those types of basic shooting, most folks use their smartphones nowadays. There are two kinds we'll be looking at. DSLRs let you see directly through the lens with a mirror and optical viewfinder. By contrast, mirrorless cameras give you an electronic view of your subject, either on the rear display or the electronic viewfinder, also known as the EVF. In very general terms, DSLRs are a bit quicker, so they're often used by pro photographers for news, sports, and action. They also have superior battery life because there's no EVF. Mirrorless cameras are more compact and better suited to shooting video or for photos where speed is less important. All that said, many mirrorless cameras are pretty fast these days and most DSLRs can handle video. As you'll see, most of our picks are mirrorless cameras as they offer more features for the dollar. That brings us to your budget. DSLRs and mirrorless cameras can range in price from $500 for Sony's A5100 to $4,500 for Sony's professional A9 Mark II. So what's with the huge price difference? It comes down to speed and capability, so let's break that down. One of the most crucial aspects of a camera is the sensor. The most expensive kind we'll look at is full frame, which is exactly the same size as the 35mm film we shot back in the day. That's about 20 times larger than the average smartphone sensor, by the way. That big surface allows the camera to gather more light, so it's better for shooting at night. It also creates a shallower depth of field, or bokeh, to isolate the subject and give them a dreamy, blurred background. The drawback is the price of both the camera and lenses. Full-frame mirrorless and DSLR cameras start at over $1,000 and go up to $5,000 and higher. The next sensor size is Aps-C. It's about 2.5 times smaller than full-frame, but still huge compared to a smartphone. In general, you get less blurred bokeh, inferior night shooting capabilities, and fewer shots per charge. However, prices are cheaper, starting at under $500 and going up to about $1,700. The smallest interchangeable lens camera sensor size is micro four thirds. Prices are similar to Aps-C, but bokeh and low-light shooting capability are further reduced. Okay, we've already narrowed down the budget range with just one feature. Now let's talk about other capabilities. If your loved one fancies themselves a sports or wildlife photographer, then speed is key. You'll want to find a camera that can shoot at 8 frames per second or more with a continuous autofocus system that keeps every shot sharp. Battery life here is pretty important too. If they're into portrait or landscape photography, then look for the maximum sensor resolution. You'll also want an optical or a good electronic viewfinder and eye detection autofocus. Budding street photographers will need a silent shooting mode, a small low-profile body with a tilting screen, and good low-light sensitivity. If they want to be the next J.J. Abrams, the camera absolutely needs sharp 4K recording. You should also check to make sure it supports 1080p at 60 frames per second and preferably 120 frames per second for dramatic slow-motion shots. YouTube vloggers will need the screen to flip around 180 degrees. For better sound, it should support a microphone input and, if possible, a headphone output as well. Face and eye detect autofocus is also a bonus here, along with in-body stabilization. Now that we know the budget range and what features your giftee will need, let's talk about specific camera models. First, let's say you have between $500 and $1,000 to spend. That will buy you a great camera these days because the market is so competitive. On the low end of that scale, I'd suggest Nikon's D3500, which is under $500 with a kit lens. I wouldn't recommend it for video shooters because it doesn't do 4K. However, with an all-new 24.2 megapixel Aps-C sensor and small body, it's great for portrait and landscape photography. It has incredible battery life and Nikon has a vast selection of lenses. Another good low-end option is Fujifilm's 24.2 megapixel XA7, which is $700 with a kit lens. It's a good little vlogging camera thanks to the flip-around screen and headphone jack. It can shoot at 6 frames per second and has face detect autofocus. Going up another notch in price, I'd suggest Fujifilm's 26.1 megapixel X-T30, which is about $800 without a lens. For that price, you get up to 8 frames per second shooting speeds, or 20 frames per second in silent electronic mode. It also offers face and eye detect autofocus and 4K video with both headphone and microphone ports. That makes it ideal for just about every kind of shooter, whether they're into action, portraits, or video. For action, portrait, and landscape shooting, go for Canon's $900 M6 Mark II. It can shoot bursts at up to 14 frames per second with full continuous autofocus, an incredible speed for a camera of that price. At the same time, it's the highest resolution Aps-C camera out there with 31 megapixels. It also delivers 4K video with face tracking, a flip-up screen, and a microphone port. Now let's talk about high-end full-frame cameras. If video is key, I'd recommend Nikon's $1,700 Z6. It has full-frame 4K video that allows for buttery bokeh and both headphone and microphone ports. It's pretty good for photos too, with 5.5 frame per second shooting speeds with autofocus enabled. The best all-around mirrorless camera is Sony's a7 III. For $2,000 without a lens, it's pretty costly, but it delivers fast 10 frame per second shooting speeds, incredible eye and face tracking autofocus, and the sharpest 4K video of any full-frame Sony camera. It's also good in low light and has great battery life. And if money isn't an object, take a look at Sony's $3,500 61 megapixel a7R4. It's the highest resolution full-frame camera out there, but delivers 10 frame per second shooting speeds, making it quite the double threat. The eye detect autofocus beats all rivals, and it can shoot pin-sharp 4K video. Finally, don't forget that you'll need to get lenses for the camera. Depending on your budget, it's good to start with a kit zoom lens, then add better quality fixed or zoom lenses later. And with that, you're fully up to speed buying a camera for your favorite photographer. If you liked the video, hit subscribe and check out our camera and holiday gift guides on Engadget.com.